How y'all doing, everyone? It's me, Double Cakes, or I go by Robinson Knox now on many fronts. I don't go by my name anymore because I want to move on from that when I create media. I just prefer it that way. Anyway, we're on the other side of New Threat. We made it to 84 episodes. Really didn't think I could do it, but more on that later. The Let's Play started in December 2017. It is December 2018 now, so that's a full year playing this game, which is, from what I understand, pretty short for a JRPG. I mean, like Let's Playing it. Usually these things take a couple of years, you know? I don't think I've had this kind of experience with a video game before. Ignoring the fact that I was turning my playthrough into a Let's Playthrough, which I've never done before, I was playing it over the course of a year, where I played it consistently every couple days or every couple weeks, whereas I usually play games daily, or in some cases, I play through a game over the course of years but take long breaks in between sessions. This was a whole new rhythm for me. What can I say about that? Not a whole lot. Playing it over a year doesn't evoke any special emotions or thoughts, or at least no major emotions or thoughts, although I think I would have preferred to play it more consistently since sometimes I had trouble keeping a rhythm going and retaining information. Okay, so let's talk about the actual ROM hack, New Threat, version 1.5. Should I call it a ROM hack? It's not technically a ROM. Oh, I don't care. Overall, New Threat is a definite recommend. How would I describe New Threat? What is the thesis of New Threat? Basically enhances the systems and gameplay of Final Fantasy VII, but there are so many things on the borders that are great additions as well that a lot of people don't mention. I love the expanded content, even down to that Siegfried fight outside of Junon. The hack was exactly what it was hyped up to be. Exploring this ROM hack was pretty fun, pretty much every step of the way. That being said, it could still be improved. Now, if Sega Chief called it quits and NT version 1.5 was a final edition of NT, it would still be really excellent, but I'm glad to hear that Sega Chief wants to improve the mod further by going so far to edit the functionality of Final Fantasy VII's programming on a deeper level. Now, this mod is excellent, even though it has to hack around how Final Fantasy VII works to manage its more advanced features like the rank up system, but it would be cool if it was more elegantly implemented. Of course, the fact that the rank up system is a thing is awesome on its own. No idea when we're going to see the next update for Final Fantasy VII New Threat, but I am looking forward to another hack that Sega Chief is currently working on, Final Fantasy VIII New Threat. It's been years since I played 8, so a new hack would be a good reason to revisit that game. I won't be doing a Let's Play of Final Fantasy VIII though. So despite me loving New Threat and thinking it's an affirming ROM hack that transforms Final Fantasy VII into the JRPG masterpiece it should be, my opinion on Final Fantasy VII has softened a bit. Prior to this playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, I considered it to be tied with Final Fantasy VI in terms of my favoritism. Now that I've played through it again, I hold Final Fantasy VII in slightly lower regard than Final Fantasy VI, although it's still in my top 20 or so. That might be because I experienced it in a very abstract way over the course of a year. I could put the blame on this playthrough of Final Fantasy VII being unusual and disconnecting compared to a rather breezy vanilla playthrough. I'm not sure. Keep in mind I've played through 6 probably a good 10 times, and I'd say 5 of those playthroughs were with ROM hacks. At least that's the feeling I get. I don't have an official history of playing through the game, and memory has a funny way of making one's experience with media seem more vast and chronic than it is. Final Fantasy VII, I'd say I played through it maybe 5 times, and this was the first time I used any kind of mod. It might be one of those things where I need to play it again before I find my love again. I mean the love that puts it in my top 10 versus my top 20. Actually, you know what it might be? Final Fantasy VII is slower and less snappy than Final Fantasy VI. What I mean is, there are more cutscenes, more battle animations, and a lot more moments in the story where the player is stuck in a certain area or has to do some kind of chore. A lot of little things that contribute to something I dub ambient frustration. When you are playing a challenge hack and you are bogged down with cutscenes and walking from save points and hiding in spell menus to pause ATBs, it can get frustrating. Final Fantasy VI doesn't have much of that, it's snappier. Even in difficult ROM hacks, I feel like I have more control, especially since I can save state and fast forward on an emulator. Bringing it back to my horror story of when I played Final Fantasy IX Unleashed, and I don't mean to bash this ROM hack, I'm sure it's beloved by fans. There was a lot of that when I played that Final Fantasy IX ROM hack. That ROM hack is hard as hell, and it's not helped that there are all sorts of long animations and uncontrollable ATB progression, and a long battle loading times. When a hack is already tough as nails, there isn't a whole lot of ambient frustrations I'll put up with before I'll get angry. That hack was on emulator though, so I could have used save states even though I didn't because that was breaking the rules or some BS like that. I mean, you're already playing a hard ROM hack, dude, just go ahead and use states. I'm probably never going to play vanilla Final Fantasy VII again, but after playing New Threat and internalizing all of its changes, it would be interesting to go back to vanilla. I think of obscure spells like Resist and Shield and their function in the vanilla game. Little curiosities like that get me thinking. Although, you know what this latest playthrough of Final Fantasy VII did for me? It made me fall in love with the soundtrack all over again. I found new love with many themes I previously didn't care about, like Underneath the Rotting Pizza, Holding My Thoughts in My Heart, this go-around really sold me on the main theme. And On That Day 5 years ago. And some songs later on, like Interrupted by Fireworks, which is a nice, beautiful track. Reunion is the biggest standout for me though. I love that track now, it's one of my favorites in the game. Judgment Day is another one, the final dungeon theme. Now then, I've talked about the ROM hack and the vanilla game itself. What do I think of this Let's Play of mine? So I should get this out of the way because all this is depressing to talk about. This Let's Play was on thin ice during some periods. I mentioned during the summer season that recording for the Let's Plays was rough. The recording for the Let's Play was rough because it was hot and I couldn't have a fan blowing on me normally because my mic would pick it up. That's one reason why the updates were infrequent during the summer. Truthfully, I was going through some life things. There was some moving and some family stuff that I don't want to get into too deeply. I had 2 friendships end on me. One friend I had, we'd been friends for a good 5 years or so, but he moved away and he wanted very little to do with his past life. He doesn't like to talk to me often. I'm sad, but he needed a fresh start, so if that includes not talking to me anymore, I understand. It's still a bummer. Another friend of mine, I had been friends for about 10 years or so. I ended that relationship because she was too negative and I was tired of her very cynical attitude. We didn't hang out much anymore, so when I told her the reason I didn't want to is because she was so toxic, she understood. Seemed like the relationship ran its course. And then it was in August, I think, I had what I'd call an anxiety attack because I'm now in my early 30s. I'm not proud of my life. I haven't done a whole lot with it, and I should be focusing on things that are more meaningful to me and more constructive, rather than just things I do to pass the time. Although then I asked myself, is doing Let's Plays meaningful to me? And after a while, I realized, yeah, it is, but I didn't always feel like it, so I considered dropping this Let's Play a few times. Then the question becomes, am I going to do another Let's Play? The answer? Yes. What I need to do and what I've been working on is just getting better at time management, which includes not wasting my time and getting more out of my waking hours. I can do another Let's Play and still have plenty of time to work on my video game projects and, real life stuff. It was stressful playing New Threat, but I kept up with it because I have a tendency to not finish things. I wanted to break that tradition and hope viewers were satisfied, although I know that my viewers aren't horrible people, and hearing about my real life story, if they had, they would have understood if I wanted to quit or needed to quit the Let's Play. There was nothing necessary about me pushing through and finishing the Let's Play. Sometimes people need to quit, it happens. There's no point to being a Let's Play martyr. No one respects a Let's Play martyr. But I kept with it, and eventually my life got better and doing the Let's Play got easier. That being said, what do I think about this Let's Play? When I started this Let's Play, I had ambitions, and I don't know how often I mentioned it, but I wanted the production of this Let's Play to be more elaborate, to the point where it edged on being closer to a lot of traditional YouTube content, like a review video, or a video essay, or something like that. Something in that genre. I don't have any specific comparisons, but I just imagine myself doing more elaborate jokes and other stuff, like when I edited that fight with Zack to include the near music, stuff like that, or the jokes with the Pokemon rap. More on that later. I mean, I wouldn't want to skip over too much of my experience, but at the same time, is that okay? At what point does it stop being a Let's Play? I'm just navel-gazing, I guess. I mean, if I skip over a whole dungeon, that would be weird. That would be a thing. Which encounters do I include? These are questions I asked myself as I edited together my Let's Play. Still, this LP had several standout moments that I'm proud of. In a little bit, I'll go through my Let's Play quickly and comment on some episodes and point out some things I'm proud of or ashamed of. I think it could have been better, and I wish I had hit my stride quicker, but looking back, I'm glad I did this. This has been a positive in my life. And you know what, since I'm on the topic, I might as well just go through my whole Let's Play and quickly commentate on some episodes and give some insight. Yeah, this entrance is pretty good, isn't it? I should have focused on doing more of this stuff. I do this cool entrance thing, and then I utilize no creativity until episode 4 or whatever. That was a quick drop in quality. The great thing about this entrance is that it skips past a huge chunk of story, which I didn't do a lot of early on. These first couple episodes cut at the end and start right after the next episode. In fact, episode 2 begins with me clearing my throat. Yeah, I'm playing on a keyboard because my controller does not work. I think these first 4 episodes were one big play session. Something that I should have been better at was having long play sessions and splitting them up into 2 and 3 episodes, but towards the middle of this Let's Play, what I would do is only record a short amount of footage, maybe just to finish up an episode, and that's not good time management. I think I just lost my enthusiasm, so I only played like 15 minutes at a time. It takes too much time to be that brief in my recording sessions. It's better for the project to record longer sessions. I'd cut a lot of footage from episode 3. It mulls over a lot of plot that isn't interesting. I think the reason why I kept it in is because I do give some interesting commentary. That's usually the deciding line on whether or not I'll keep footage, if my commentary is interesting. The thing is, if I keep a lot of plot footage because my commentary, then my Let's Play won't be any different from others. So looking back, I'd rather it be cut. Episode 4 begins with a Demon Souls cut, which I don't think is super funny or anything, but I like it. There's also a joke about Cloud being edgy with his Advent Children art being superimposed on the screen. That's a technique I'd get better with as the LP would go on. Early in the LP I was trying to make trains, and a love for trains a recurring joke, but I dropped that before long. Early on, I was way more meticulous with HP comparisons between New Threat and vanilla Final Fantasy VII, but early on, it's such a big deal. Well, I guess later on it's still a big deal when you realize that Emerald Weapon in New Threat has a quarter HP of Emerald Weapon in vanilla Final Fantasy VII. I was also crazy about text displays back then. I think using post-production voiceover took something away from that, I didn't use text displays as much. Episode 6 is when I try to make this transitional display card. That's when I first use that official wallpaper image of Cloud and Sephiroth. Also, later in this episode, we get our first instance of Polygon Helicopter, the true villain of Final Fantasy VII, but we won't see him again until the sequel. Episode 7 introduces one of my favorite jokes in which I flash an image of Aerith getting stabbed to foreshadow her awful fate. I don't know if anyone picked up on that because it is a quick image and people aren't watching every second. Oh yeah, episode 8 introduces the star of the show, Aerith, CRT television. Warm, comforting, utilitarian. One of my favorite flavors of joke on this Let's Play was referencing 90s pop culture, especially the stuff around when Final Fantasy VII was released. I didn't keep up with that kind of joke though, but I kept up with Aerith, CRT television. Oh yeah, episode 9 was the first time I used any kind of intro, although back then it was a blurred footage with the titles on top. Actually, I kind of like this because the cutscene in the background is part of the plot, but the viewer doesn't actually have to watch it. It just gives some context. Skipping ahead to episode 12, this was a birth of Cloud's voice. Well, come on guys, let's go see what's on the menu. Maybe they're serving up flapjacks. Which I seriously think is funny and fun to do, even if some of my viewers find it annoying. The thing is, it's only been complained about and never praised, so those who might like it probably don't love it, and it wouldn't be a huge bummer if the joke was retired. So eventually I got rid of it. The complaints came towards the end of the Let's Play in the first place, so eventually I did cool it on the joke, but very late in the game. You know, this episode was a step forward for my editing skills because of the Earthbound music sequence. I had Ness pop up on the screen for a quick second, and I had to get better at editing so that he bounced around a bit. Episode 13, Atrocity's Spire. I was worried that that title was too pretentious, but I don't know, it sounds cool. This was a longer episode. I ran this episode long, so episode 14, which closes off the first acts of Final Fantasy VII, clocks in at about 13 minutes, so that's a lopsided pair of episodes. Episode 14 was the first video I did with the proper intro and outro sequences. It's not that important, but I do like it as a bit of editing professionalism that helps sell the image of a high quality Let's Play. Like, ooh, I'm so sophisticated with my titles displayed over a blurred background image. Do you see how the video fades out? Ooh! Episode 16 was the first episode to feature Mr. Smiley, and I put a special note on my Let's Play table of contents to signify that hey, maybe newcomers might want to check out this video to see some cool tricks. I had a lot of fun editing that sequence where Mr. Smiley is introduced, but I wonder if viewers assumed that all those weird cuts were part of the mod itself, and not my post-production afterwards. Hey, look at that, it's the Age of Empires joke, and boy did I run that into the ground. That first time it was pretty funny, if I do say so myself, but later on I felt obligated to keep that joke going on with none of the creativity or enthusiasm. My big disappointment is, okay, Cecil from Final Fantasy IV is a paladin. There are paladins in Age of Empires 2. I could have done something with that. Like I could have had a paladin ride in and be like, oh, look who's come to save the day, it's Cecil Harvey from Final Fantasy IV, riding a magnificent horse. I mean chocobo, he's riding a chocobo. Also, this was the first episode where I did a voiceover in post-production, basically just a segue into and out of the Age of Empires scene. It's hard to do that without it being noticeable because my voice recorded during gameplay, and the voice recorded while editing sounds very different. Episode 19 was made around the same time Sega Chief made the announcement that version 1.5 A New Threat would be a dead end, and future updates would be a brand new strain of the game mod. Personally, I was excited. But then it made me wonder, would this Let's Play go obsolete? I mean, during its production. Obviously that didn't happen, but I was concerned. I don't think the version 1.5 update was released yet, that's in a few episodes. But that was the only time the game mod changed while I played it. Yeah, episode 21 was the first time... episode 21 I was still getting used to post-production voiceover. Not a lot of enthusiasm or spunk in my voice. You know, he doesn't have high strength, he doesn't have high magic. I fumble on words a lot. It's like, man, you can go back and re-record. This is post-production, you can do anything. Oh, Ep 22. Guess what debuts in this episode? This has been Final Fantasy VII New Threat. Although Stay Tuned doesn't appear yet. Episode 24 is another example of a lopsided pair of episodes. Episode 24 is 25 minutes long, and episode 25 is 7, so that's I don't know, it's not a big deal. I got the right idea towards the end of this Let's Play where I just cut off whenever and kept most of my videos between 20 and 30 minutes. There's nothing weird about cutting in the middle of a fight, it can be a good cliffhanger, like in an anime. By episode 25, my post-production voiceover actually got pretty adequate. It wasn't too bad at all. Hey, remember in episode 26 where I lost some footage, so I had to make an artist's rendition of the game's events? Good times. Oh yeah, episode 27 was when the new 1.5 patch rolled out, or when I installed it, so there were new changes like materia stats and limit breaks. Oh god, episode 28 was the first time I tried to tell the blind side story. I'm sure I'm the only one who cares about me failing to tell that story. In fact, you're probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. I'll just feel embarrassed for it in my own privacy. Episode 29 had some accent talk about how the characters should sound if they were voiced. It's also the episode where I got into the groove of narrating at the beginning and at the end of the episode, which I think is an all-around positive to this Let's Play. Oh yeah, this is it. Episode 30, Mortal Kombat. This is where I really hit my stride, where I truly realize what this Let's Play should be. From the dramatic use of the Mortal Kombat music to the iterative editing through my triumphant victories and my tragic defeats, this was the first episode I was truly proud of. That's something that I got better as my Let's Play went on. Early on I would cut out any rounds where I lost and only include the winning fight. But it's not as interesting. You want to see me change my strategies, learn, and adapt. That's part of the story of the Let's Play. It's better to include it. Hey, remember in episode 35 where I killed Aerith and in the next episode I had to hack my save and redo the scene so Aerith lives? That was a fun time. The Great Glacier is one of those dungeons that I remember being way more frustrating than it is. I was dreading it, but when I got there I did alright. Episode 38 is where I debuted my true sign-off phrase. This has been Final Fantasy VII New Threat. Stay tuned. Oh yeah, we got the stay tuned in there too, that's perfect. It didn't take long before my enthusiasm for doing this Let's Play would wane, but getting the airship in episode 42 renewed my excitement for playing New Threat. This episode came out in April, so that was before my personal troubles came around, but there were still moments where I just wasn't feeling up to playing Final Fantasy VII. And that happens. Sometimes, many times, Let's Players lose interest in the game they're playing. I mean, it happens to me all the time, I just lose interest. Usually it's not a big deal, because I had nothing riding on completing the game. But this was a Let's Play. This was my first Let's Play. So what was the plan if I'd lost interest? I guess I would have taken a break, which is what I was kind of doing anyway during the summer. Sometimes it would take over 2 weeks before updates, but I'm glad I let myself be scarce on that because if I had forced myself to release an update every 4 days or so, I likely would have burnt out. Episode 43 and episode 44 featured me trying once again to tell my blind side story. I'd forgotten that I tried telling it during episode 28 or whatever. Looking back, I don't know why I needed to tell it. I have plenty of weird stories in my life, including stories that are interesting. But I've always been fascinated by that woman that loved the blind side with all of her heart. Also, this is the episode where I had that sweet name drop. Cloud had found himself. He no longer lived in that illusion where he was not the real Cloud and that he was a piece of Genova. He vows never again to be tricked by those delusions. That world where he was just a puppet to Sephiroth, that was the last time he would be living an illusion. That was his Final Fantasy. I had to brainstorm and think up a way to use the term Final Fantasy so that it could be used literally to describe something in the plot, and I did the best I could. Remember episode 47 and how I opened with trying to fight Carmine Weapon? That was a good joke. This was during a period in my Let's Play where most of the content was watching me fail, and I was insecure about that. At that point I knew that my failures were part of the Let's Play, but I was worried that watching it was getting boring or frustrating. Episode 48 had some technical problems where my mic audio didn't record, and it's weird how most of the technical difficulties I had happened on the back half of this Let's Play. Like maybe I should have gotten more technically proficient as this Let's Play went on? Oh well. I think episode 49 is when I had that big chat about perfect games, playing certain JRPGs in a way so that you have perfect leveling and character growth. If I had footage or screenshots of some of those perfect playthroughs, I would have probably made a video about them because that's always interesting, but sadly, I do not. Oh yeah, episode 50 was the start of the Goldberry saga. It only lasted a couple episodes, but feels like I was stuck on it for a good chunk of the game. It's easily my biggest rivalry in the whole Let's Play. You can hear the relief in my voice when I finally beat a couple of them and basically secure my victory. Yes! It might be my most triumphant moment in this Let's Play, but you know what? Because Goldberries had that move that dispels the heroes, including dispelling resist, I got in the habit of not using resist because the Goldberries fight discouraged me from it, and that was a bad habit to pick up. Episode 54 begins with a previously on joke, which is a joke I'd wanted to do forever, and I don't think I did a great job. This was also the episode where I talked about media blending together in memory, my memories of the ancient forest blending with me listening to early Linkin Park. Episode 56, the fight against the curator, and one particular moment where I really lost it. I did not mean literally, game! I'm so glad that I got that moment on footage. I wasn't expecting to have one of those real unintentionally hilarious moments, so it was real cool and evened out the Let's Play. Man, that final dungeon hit me like a truck. It's so hard, especially with those Zarcats. And it's bad enough that it's frustrating, but this was during the time where my real-life drama got real bad. I was in a deep dark place and I knew that I was going to beat the final boss because I was almost there anyway. But I wasn't sure that I'd continue afterwards and do the post-game. I had planned to do the post-game content, but my spirits were so low. The way I saw it is, yeah, it would have been disappointing to abandon that extra content, but the Let's Play would be feature complete in that I made it to the credits. There would have been some kind of closure to the Let's Play. I start episode 60 with a weird story about some coyotes I knew in my childhood that picked on me. I guess I was just being weird for the sake of fun. Nothing built my enthusiasm for the Let's Play quite like me getting weird and non sequitur, and using it as a vehicle for my eccentric personality. Maybe some of the blame for my scarce updates lie in the release of La Milana 2. I was trying to get that game done as quickly as possible. There's a 20-day wait between episode 61 and episode 62. And episode 62 was the first part of the final boss. I didn't even do the final boss in one play session. I think I did a fight, died on the second fight, took a break, and then returned later. Again, overall it's not good time management to do all these brief sessions and edit them as you record them. It's better to get a good long play session in and then slowly chop it up. Although I was still recording footage pretty quickly, like there was little time between my first session and the second one where I finished off the final boss fight. In fact, production was so quick that it was the first time in a long time where I had a buffer of videos. I published episodes with others waiting in the hangar. It felt good and it gave me confidence. At the end of the third part of the final boss, the game freezes and I have a little conversation about which final boss themes I prefer. That joke was me reminding myself why I wanted to do this Let's Play, and it inspired me a bit to continue on after the final boss. I was holding on to that joke for a while, the idea of stopping the game at its most dramatic moment and having a weird rant about something. No one commented on it, but I thought it was pretty funny. Episode 65 begins the post-game. I like the intro I give to the post-game, even though that abstract joke rings of me trying desperately to be wacky and creative with my narration. I said that the videos will be more abstract because the post-game is non-linear, but in the end I still edit and perform this Let's Play linearly, so how strange could it get? Episodes 66 and 67 were the ones where I had audio issues. It really got me down, these audio issues, and the best I could do was make a joke about putting the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack in, but actually take music from other games. I do like using non-Final Fantasy VII music for this Let's Play. It gives it some flavor, I guess. Even though I skipped over a lot of plot during this Let's Play, I still wanted to retain some of the tone and atmosphere of Final Fantasy VII. But once I hit post-game, that was dropped immediately. It was time for goofing off, including using outsider music. Episode 68 was the first time I ended the episode mid-battle, and honestly, that's not a big deal, but at the same time, if I could go back and change things, I would do more mid-battle cliffhangers. Speaking of mid-battle cliffhangers, episode 69 and 70 was me fighting the special battle at the battle arena. That was a long fight, and I just wandered into it unknowingly. If I would have failed, that would have been a possible rage quit moment. Also, I want to thank my audience for not making nice jokes when episode 69 dropped. I hate that meme. Okay, so episodes 71 and 72 were me going back to the Northern Cave to get enemy skills and explore that annex that I missed the first time around, including fighting the Zarkats for a death charge. Fighting the Zarkats pretty much took up a whole episode, but that's kinda good, isn't it? I talked earlier about how I'm insecure about episodes being mostly failures, but in the case of Zarkats, that was a whole war I was fighting. Personally, I think it makes good entertainment, at least in the case of these episodes. Unfortunately, this was an early example of the frame rate issues I was having late in LP. I don't know what causes them. My setup hadn't changed in a way where CPU power would be an issue. It's a real bummer, but hopefully viewers could still enjoy my Let's Play. In the future, I will take extra care to make sure they don't bog down more footage. Oh boy, episode 75, Become as Gods. This is when I hit another stride. This Zack fight was very challenging, and since there was no music in the background, what better way to spruce up the LP by adding in dramatic score to enhance the intensity of the fights. Mixing the instrumentals and vocals of the amusement park theme from Nier Automata was a good choice, if I do say so myself. This introduced a second wave of high-concept editing that would carry into late parts of this LP, including the next episode in which I parody the poker rap. Max Ray, Spiritland, Spirit Clip, Ritsuru, Outsider. Yeah, I think that's all of them. This is a joke that I've had for years. You know, I was one of those guys that was watching Nostalgia Critic in the late aughts, and I had aspirations of being an internet creator like him, and you know, as I'm dreaming of being this YouTube star, I come up with recurring jokes since that was a prominent thing in the Channel Awesome School of Entertainment, and one of those reoccurring jokes was doing a spin on the poker rap theme every now and again, and gotta catch 'em all. Frankly, I don't know if this would make a good recurring joke, but its execution in this video is pretty solid, I think so. Later on, you get me singing a parody of the chorus of the poker rap, and I'm not confident in my voice, let alone my singing voice, but it was a creative joke, so I went with it. Thing is, it's a brief joke, just one bar, and if a viewer finds a joke annoying, it's forgivable if it's very quick. The Pokemon theming continued in episode 77, where, like the Nier music in the Zack episode, I faded through instrumental and vocal versions of the Pokemon theme song. It was a bit of a nostalgia ride for me, revisiting music from the first season of Pokemon, and that's some heavy nostalgia too. I'm the kind of guy that can hear the Pokemon battle theme and be paralyzed with nostalgia. Oh yeah, this episode, the first episode of the Dark Cave. I should have edited this down, it's a bad episode. It should have been summarized a lot more. But then comes episode 79, Somewhere Else Part 2, easily the high point of this Let's Play. You may be wondering what exactly inspired me to stick a Neil Cicierega music video in the middle of my Let's Play. Well, the start of this story goes all the way back to the last time that I played Final Fantasy VII, about a couple years ago. I was playing the game for my sister's sake. She wanted to watch me play and wasn't interested in actually playing the game herself. And you know, I listen to music while I play, and as I'm sitting there playing Final Fantasy VII, I'm listening to Bustin' from Neil Cicierega. And right off the bat, there's a joke about Cloud's Buster Sword getting a power boost while Bustin' is playing. I then made more connections like, sleeping makes me feel good, being a representation of how sleeping at ends heals the party's HP and MP. And then there's a lyric, I ain't afraid no sleep, which I connected with equipping an accessory with sleep immunity. And inside my head, I started building this music video, this comedic music video. From there, I made more connections, and before long, I got the idea of making a fan video using Final Fantasy VII footage. Footage that I did not have. So it was just a pipe dream that I forgot about for a little bit. And then I started this Let's Play, and the idea of using my footage to make that music video became a reality. Early on, I decided that I was going to do it, but it was going to be towards the end of the game, you know, because I'll have the most diverse array of footage. It was important that I didn't foreshadow my plans to put in a bustin' music video. Like, I didn't want to say a Neil C.C. Riga lyric or make a Ghostbusters reference. It had to come right out of nowhere with no prediction. Maybe I could have transitioned to it a little bit more elegantly or interestingly, but I think I handled it well. I had the music video ready weeks before episode 79 launched, and actually towards the end of this Let's Play, I had a huge buffer in front of me. I was up to 10 videos ahead of this Let's Play. I was definitely excited to explore new threats post-game and finish this Let's Play. Anyway, I rendered busting on its own and then imported it into episode 79. However, a few days before episode 79 launched, I went back over my busting video and I was a little unsatisfied, so I went back and made some changes and improved it. Stuff like clips not syncing to the beat very rhythmically, or maybe a clip not being an effective cut for a beat. So I re-edited the video, re-imported it into episode 79, re-rendered episode 79, and re-uploaded it, and that's the version you're watching. Just a day before launch, I had another set of changes lined up, but they were minuscule, so I nixed the idea. For example, the best part of the music is those feel-good clips, and I wanted to use one from Anything Can Happen on Halloween, because there's that one shot where Tim Curry looks like he's having an orgasm. There's also that part in Earthbound where Gygas tells Ness, I feel good. And getting a clip of that would have been perfect. Oh well. People really liked it anyway, so what that teaches me is that I don't have to be a perfectionist to make something really special. That's a lesson that I can take into my life, and I'm thankful for it. Around the time I was recording my fights with Viridian Weapon, I noticed how bad the frame rate was in my videos. Once again, it's a drag, and I wish it could have been better. Now, Viridian Weapon, this was a last really hard battle. It only took me a couple tries, but the battle is so long it feels very challenging. So I consider it to be the last crucible of New Thread. And the name, Viridian Weapon. There was a song in Pokemon, one of those Pikachu's Juice Box songs called Viridian City, or something about Viridian City, and there was a missed opportunity to make a joke about that, since I was on that like Pokemon theming of reoccurring jokes. Man, isn't it weird how the bosses get really easy after Carmine Weapon? Maybe it's because I had perfected my party setup, or the fact that I switched focus to physical attacks? Actually, I like the music I chose for this episode. Final Fantasy III's Road to the Summit. It has that nice penultimate sound to it. Same goes for episode 84. I'd always wanted to use the Persona 4 final boss theme for something. I kind of like how anticlimactic this Let's Play got. I mean, in terms of bosses being really easy and not because of the technical issues on the butt end of my Let's Play. Now, I called this the final fight, this fight with Nemesis, but I knew about the secret fight against Ozma. I deliberately kept the viewers in the dark because I wanted it to be a strange surprise. So at the end of this episode, the tone is very surreal and disturbed. This weird chapter of the Let's Play was me trying to emulate the structure and atmosphere of a creepypasta. So in the next episode, there's no music and I don't have my voice. My narration goes back to the text displays. Even writing those text boxes, I want them to be very inhuman and robotic, even though it's clearly me, my narration. The editing needed to be different too. It had to be more off-putting and had to lack style. After being Ozma, you get that one blank item. I don't know what it does. I tried it out on a couple enemies because it is an item you can use in battle, but nothing happened. If it does something, it sucks that I won't cover it in this Let's Play, but that's I'm not willing to play this game any further, I guess. Sorry that's disappointing. Hopefully it's not a big deal. After that weird zoom, the footage cuts to me leaving the battle arena after the fight with Nemesis like none of that Ozma business happened, like it was a nightmare that I woke up from. The tone of my narration is actually excited because I finished the game. I was just going for a creepypasta thing, but maybe viewers assume the lack of music and weird editing was a technical issue since I'd been having them for the last 10 episodes or so. And that's the end! I know I didn't get every little thing, and I didn't see every enemy attack, but I think this Let's Play was pretty feature complete. I enjoyed doing it for the most part, and I'm glad that you watched it, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself. But then comes the question, what's next? Well, I already decided that I was going to do another Let's Play, but this next one, I want to do something different. I don't want it to be plot focused, so I was thinking maybe something like The Sims, or maybe do something on an emulator like giving a Final Fantasy Tactics hack a whirl. That way I can have my save states and my fast forward. I tried recording Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but that didn't go so good. Don't think I'd want to do a Let's Play on GTA anyway, even though it's one of my favorite games. I considered it though. I look back on my Let's Play of Final Fantasy VII New Threat, and there are some lessons to be learned. My thumbnail game was really bad in this Let's Play, both on Something Awful forums and on YouTube. With Let's Play, you want to have a consistent thumbnail template. It was a Wild West for thumbnails during this Let's Play. There are some major lessons to be had about bringing the right attitude to recording sessions. Sometimes I record footage because I hadn't in some time and felt obligated to get some work done, but forcing myself to play just made me really unenergetic. Same with editing. When I open up Vegas and I'm just editing to get work done, there's not going to be a lot of creative style and spin on my game footage. I've already decided what I'm Let's Playing next though. My next Let's Play will be Age of Empires, the first one. Being that it's a series of campaigns and there's not a lot of story, it'll be a major change of pace. Plus, it's a PC game where you can save anywhere, anytime, so that gives me more control over the difficulty and frustration. I know that's a weird game to bring up in 2018, 2019, especially since Age of Empires 2 is essentially the same game but better, but I have a special love for that first one and I want to revisit it. And I know I can make it very entertaining and show off how fun the game can be. Not sure how big the scope is going to be with that Let's Play since it's basically an indefinite stream of campaigns, but I think it'll keep me busy for a while. So once again, thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll join me in my next Let's Play, and if not, hopefully you enjoyed this one. It was a long, hard journey, but I think I made something special and something stand out. I think I did this game mod justice and celebrated its engaging contours. This was easily a game experience like none other. My name is Robinson Knox, aka Double Cakes, and this has been Final Fantasy VII New Threat.